The anatomy of Google Analytics reports. So let's look at a sample Google Analytics report to get a feeling for some of the common elements that every report has. So to begin with, at the top of any Google Analytics report, you're going to get your date picker. We're going to talk about this more in the next topic, but this essentially defines the date range which we're looking at the data. Down below, we get a chart, which charts the primary metric for this particular report. In this example, we can see a day-over-day view of the number of sessions. And there's a few ways we can interact with this chart. So if we instead wanted to see a weekly view, we could use this little toggle switch here, and that'll consolidate our data into a weekly view. And we could also go monthly if we'd prefer. Some other things we can do are look at different metrics here. So currently we're looking at sessions, but if instead we want to look at transactions in this graph, we just switch over to transactions. And at the same time, we can actually compare two metrics simply by selecting another one here. So a few different ways to interact with this report. Down below, you'll get the table. So the table is the data set that we're focusing on for this particular report. And so you know what we're looking at now is called the channels report, which looks at specific marketing channels and the related metrics. So in a typical table, you'll get your dimension in the left-hand column, and up top you get your different metrics. So what's the difference? A dimension is a non-quantitative attribute of your data. So it's stuff like the channel, for example, organic search, or maybe the referring source, such as Facebook, or maybe the device the user's using, maybe a PC versus a tablet. Again, these are non-quantitative values, which we then look at specific metrics related to. So let's go over to the metrics. Metrics, again, quantitative, always a number, percentage, assigned to them. You have three different types of metrics. First are acquisition metrics, and acquisition metrics are specific to like the number of sessions, the percentage of new sessions, the number of users, that sort of stuff. Behavioral metrics look more at what the users do, so we look at things like bounce rate, pages a session, average session duration. And then lastly, we get a variety of conversion metrics. And in this example, we're an e-commerce website, so we're going to see things such as e-commerce related revenue, transactions, that sort of thing. And what intersects the dimension and the metric is the data. So in this example, let's go over a line item to see what it means. We were looking at referral traffic on this line, and we know that referral traffic drove 797 sessions, 85% of which were new. We know that 6 transactions came from referral traffic, and then we get a revenue stat. And this applies to each line item, so it allows us to compare different breakdowns of dimension. So how does organic traffic respond compared to referrals, compared to direct, and so forth. Different ways we can interact with this are to sort. So by clicking on different metrics, we can sort by them. So if I want to click on transactions, for example, first time I click, it's going to give me that transaction data in descending order. So I'll get where we get the most transactions from first. And if I click it again, it'll give me the ascending view. And some other things you can do here is actually change the primary dimension. So up here you can see that by default we're looking at channels, but simply by clicking source and medium, we're going to see down the left-hand column that the source and medium populates. And then the source, we could look at that as well. So that's the basics of a Google Analytics report. We're going to jump a little bit more into a couple other sections, which include the date picker and the filter bar.